Hey everybody, how's it going? We're getting ready for church tomorrow and looking forward to our time together. We're going to be in 2 Samuel 19 and 20, and it involves the story of David coming back to Jerusalem, the king basically returning to his throne after, his usurper son had tried to take the kingdom from his father. And it's a really fascinating story because you got all the different dynamics of the tribes of Israel, wanting to bring the king of Israel, King David, back to Jerusalem. And there's a bunch of drama that plays out amongst the tribes. But one of the things that we read in this text from chapter 20 verse 2, it says this about the tribe of Judah, that they followed their king steadfastly from Jordan, from the river Jordan, to Jerusalem. Now, I love that picture. It was like they were cleaving to their king. They were hanging on to their king. They were following him steadfastly. In fact, it reminds me of a story from Acts chapter 11. In Acts chapter 11, we read about, I would encourage you to check it out, we read about the early church and what was happening in the early church as it was growing and just impacting society is that persecution came upon the church in Jerusalem. And they fled and they went to different places. One of the places where they went to was Antioch in Syria. And many people got saved there and a church was born. And then in Jerusalem, they heard about it. So they wanted to support these believers who had fled Jerusalem, ended up in Syria, evangelized, start a new church. So the church in Jerusalem sends Barnabas there to support them. And Barnabas shows up to see what God is doing. And he tells the church, hey, this is awesome, you guys. And he encourages them. And he says this to them, hold steadfastly to the Lord and be faithful. And I just like that picture from Acts chapter 11, from 2 Samuel chapter 20, to hold steadfastly to the King, to hold steadfastly to the Lord. For you and I, to hold steadfastly to Jesus. Look, that's what we have to do in this life all the time. And there are different areas where we undergo threats in our lives where it's like, let go of Jesus. Like sometimes our flesh rears its head, the appetites of the flesh for sin, and sin is like pursuing us. And it's like, you want to let go of Jesus to pursue sin. And it's like, no, in the midst of that, I've got to hold tightly to Jesus. Or maybe, in the midst of a crowd or a situation where you're with people and the pressure is to undergo some sort of, pressure of the crowd to go with the flow, to go with what other people are doing. It's like, no, I've got to hold steadfastly to Jesus in the midst of this. Or I think about Job. Remember him? He was undergoing things in his life that he couldn't control, didn't know why they were happening, and he held steadfastly to the Lord. And you could be in that kind of situation too, where you're like, well, so much is out of my control. Be like the men of Judah. Hold steadfastly to your king. Listen to the teaching of Barnabas, who said to the church, be faithful to the Lord. Hold steadfastly to him. So we're going to get a chance to look at this text. I want to encourage you, just whatever you got going on, cling to Jesus. Cling to Jesus. Be reading ahead with us. 2 Samuel 19 and 20. We'll be together in church tomorrow. We'll see you there, 9:30.